Well, thank you for that open. It was great. As far as knowing who uses Yelp, it's perfect. That saves me some time. Hopefully we can get a little bit back on track. As far as what we're going to talk about today, we're not going to talk about mapping. We're actually going to talk about navigating the world of online reviews, which is pretty similar. So just by show of hands again, who here uses Yelp, I guess, for restaurants, right? Let's go back to that. If you use it for something else, keep your hand up. All right, so what else have you used Yelp for?
Oh gosh. Framing, picture framing.
Yeah, that's great. I actually just recently did the same thing. I'm biased, I work for Yelp, so that's not necessarily super surprising. But we're going to talk about a couple things today. We're going to go through 5 steps, I guess, to the way that you want to think about the world of online reviews. My role as a brand evangelist is not to sell you advertising, not a salesperson. Everything that I'm going to talk about today is more of like a high-level approach to online reviews and the way that you should think about feedback relative to your brands or to your properties or your businesses. So the first thing is review sites matter. And this presentation might be a little bit unorthodox. It's going to get a little dark in some places. We're all going to be comfortable with that. It's the end of the day. We're probably all in that headspace anyway. It's going to be funny, lighthearted, serious. You know, I just watched this Netflix documentary book called a stand-up comedy routine called In the Net. I don't know if anyone's seen it. Highly recommend. But she says that a presenter's job is to control the tension in the room, right? So it's like, I want to get to a place where you're feeling like, oh my god, this is so tense. And then I want to like deliver some respite from that and have you be like, oh, thank you guys. Thank you so much for making me laugh, John. And that's really going to be kind of the ebb and flow of this presentation. So when we talk about review sites, I feel like Greg does a really good job of talking about how consumers are accessing information online. And when it comes to consumer behavior, we know that 97% of consumers are turning to the internet to find a local business. And of those users, 8 out of 10 of them are turning to review sites. And of the consumers who are on review sites, we know that they have really high buying intent. We always talk about the sales funnel. Somebody who's on a review site is not choosing whether or not they need your product or service. You're choosing between who is ultimately going to provide that product or service, right? They're at the very end of the sales funnel. It's an extremely high intent search. And what we know is that 92% of the time, they're making a purchase, and they're actually making a purchase typically within a week of that search. So when you think about this review site traffic, you have to think about somebody who is pretty much credit card in hand, ready to book, ready to make a decision, ready to pick up that phone or click over to your website, and is ready to transact. I think the other thing to think about with review sites is that because consumers rely on them so much, it's not necessarily something that you have to be an avid Yelp user to necessarily access that information. So when it comes to our traffic, we have 100 million mobile users, we have 74 million desktop, and what people go to Yelp to find is its reviews. And we have 155 million reviews since our inception. What's important here is the way that those reviews are proliferated. Because reviews on Yelp do not only live on Yelp. So I mentioned that this is going to get a little bit dark. As a speaker, I like to be prepared. End of day slot, you never know how that's going to go. I might totally bomb, right? I might just die up here. So, I use Siri, and if ever want to be prepared, I started looking for a cemetery or a mortuary, right? I want to make sure I have the best spot, because just in case I die, I want to make sure I'm going down in style. So, what does Siri show me? Well, Siri shows me the Green Street Mortuary, which has 37 reviews, 3 stars. Not really sure how a cemetery gets 3 stars. I can't really imagine that their customer base is necessarily gonna, oh, 1 second. Dirt, very acidic. Great for grass, terrible for being buried. So you see that your reviews are integrated right into that search, and that's because of our partnership with Apple. Yelp Data is integrated into Siri. It's also integrated into that Apple Maps. So if I do a categorical search for a cemetery in San Francisco, where I live, you'll see that your Yelp reviews are pulled in there as well. But most importantly, if somebody's typing in your business name specifically, you're going to come across those reviews again, right? So if you think that somebody's going to get in their car, pull up your business to map directions to it, and then think twice if you don't have a great rating, you would be wrong, right? I'm probably not going to go to a one-star dentist or a one-star business if I'm finally seeing that reviewer coming across that data as I'm getting my car to map directions, right? It's gonna take an even sadder turn. Because I'm gonna do something that's probably never been done on stage before. I'm going to kill this ox. I know, sad. Why did I kill this ox? Well, to make a point, right? As Francis Galton did, who is a mathematician, and we're going to have to go back to 1907. And in 1907, Francis Galton came up with this study, and he wanted to prove the point as well. And he went to a state fair, and he asked about 800 people to measure or to guess the weight of this ox. What he found was that some people are like awful at guessing, right? I'm like absolutely awful. They're like, oh, that ox weighs like 50 pounds. Or like, that ox weighs 10 tons, right? Terrible. But some people were really good at it. But individually, nobody was necessarily right? But when you take those 800 guesses, and you put them together and you average them out, that average was within 1 pound of the actual weight of the ox. And this is the first known observation of the wisdom of the crowd. And your reviews online, the reason consumers trust them so much is because those individual voices, who maybe love a business that's terrible or hate a business that's fantastic, those don't necessarily matter, right? It's the collective average that gives you that true north. So consumers seek this information out because there is not that anecdotal evidence that's going to sway them one way or the other. One of the slides that Greg showed before was what consumers trust. And when it comes to content that consumers respond best to, it's user-generated content. Because that is other consumers who are just like them, who they can have the confidence in, because it's not content that's filtered or managed by a brand, or proliferated by a brand, right? So when we talk about review sites and why these are so important to consumers, it's because they want to know the true north and the true measure of business. And that's what your overall star rating is, right? It's how well you satisfy your brand promise. Because your brand promise is made up of a lot of different things. It's not just your reviews, it's the color schemes that you choose, your marketing materials, the channels that you market on, right? I was told a story, I was in Texas for a friend's wedding, and I was after the wedding, we were looking to get some food, and we're looking at a Waffle House and a Wendy's. And everybody always talks about Wendy's advertising or their Twitter account, because their Twitter account is hilarious, and it's a little bit risque at times. Maybe not dark, I don't think that they're killing any oxes on stage. But, you get this really fun, young, kind of lively account, and then the Wendy's that I was looking at looked like the most old school rundown thing I've ever seen in my life. And that disconnect between the way that you're marketing your brand, or the way that you're putting it out there, and the reality of what was staring right in front of me, which is a super old-fashioned, dated sign, not super up-to-date facade, is cognitive dissonance in the eyes of the consumer. So the image that you build up for them, and then what you actually deliver, or hopefully what you actually deliver, that gap is measured in how successful you are with your feedback and your reviews online. So, getting to our second point, getting on review sites is the first step, participating in them, but also managing your listing. And this doesn't mean paid listing management, this means engaging with and paying attention to and tracking your listings. Because I'm sure everyone's, one of my favorite questions, who here has tried to get consumers to fill out a survey? Right? Yeah, I was once at a conference presenting on the future of feedback to 200 people who had struggled to get feedback. And of that 200 people, 6 people filled out this survey. Okay? These are people who are moaning and groaning that they can't get people to fill out a survey. 6 of them. Okay? Consumers are going to naturally kind of go towards the channels that are natural to them, so the channels that they're most familiar with. So you're going to find that getting that direct, actionable, survey feedback or what people are telling you in stores or in your properties is going to be shrinking, right? That's a much less obvious form of feedback. You have to move things like review sites into your purview because those are the channels that they're going to be sharing their experiences on and sharing their feedback on. So when it comes to manager listing, I think one of the most important aspects of this is actually something that I learned, not from Yelp, but from my parents. People treat a space the way that a space is treated, right? So if you go over somebody's house and it looks like this, you're probably throwing your coat in a chair, kicking your feet up, putting your shoes on the coffee table, doesn't really matter. If you go over somebody's house and it looks like this, you're like, oh my God, you live in a museum. Is that a dog or a statue? It's not blinking. Should I take my shoes off? Can I sit here, right? People react to a space the way that you treat the space. So if you expect people to evangelize your brand, or you expect people to share their feedback and be open about it, then you have to invite them to do so. And you invite them to do so by making sure that your profiles are complete, that it looks like, and that you're demonstrating that you take pride in those channels. So on Yelp, this is what a brand new empty business page looks like. Pretty sad, pretty bleak, very gray. And if you're adding a new location or if you're claiming a location in order to access it, in order to manage that location, you do that through our business owners portal, which is biz.yelp.com. But completing the listing, adding photos, adding your information for single location businesses is free, but also any location can go in there and claim their businesses and manage those listings. I will talk to Masters about that. But one of the most important things, and I think biggest missed opportunities for folks, is the story that they tell on their page. So categories are obviously really important. I find a lot of people sometimes undersell their categories. So for example, this winery is also a venue and event space, but they're only the winery category. The other thing would be photos. I will never read 300 reviews of a property or 300 reviews of a restaurant. But I will look through 300 photos trying to figure out if your chili is any good. I've done it before. I have sat at a table, we need 5 more minutes. It's like Tinder, right? But for food. It's fantastic. Yeah, this is probably not what you guys signed up for, I'm sorry. But the point is you have like 5,000 characters on your Yelp page that you actually can control and influence as far as search terms and keywords and things like that. But you have access to upload an unlimited number of photos. And you probably have the best photos of your properties or your business. Typically, users don't, right? Not everybody's like an Annie Leibovitz, who's just like, oh man, the lighting's perfect in here. More often than not, it's like horrible selfie, right? So make sure that you're putting the photos that are actually evocative and representative of your business on your page, because those are going to have natural preference. And also, if you really want to up the ante, you can always, opt for an optional upgrade, like a photo slideshow or something like that. Next thing is just your basic business information. You would be shocked by the number of businesses who don't have hours on their page. If a consumer is searching for a business that's open now, and you don't have hours on your page, you're not going to show up in that search, which is an extremely popular filter that people use. Also, things like your website or your phone number. A lot of sophisticated businesses are actually using vanity phone numbers or vanity websites to actually track this traffic. So if that's something that you're interested in, that's something that I always recommend. And then specialties, history, and meet the owner. So we don't officially talk about what we index and what we don't index, but I can say that if you are going to put your keywords anywhere on your Yelp page, your specialty section is definitely an important place to do it. Because not only is that important in Yelp, but as Greg talked about, when sites like Google and spiders are crawling sites like Yelp, the more keywords that you have associated with your branding and your business information, the more that helps you in organic search on sites like Google as well. So just kind of a quick rundown, basic business info about your business and photos. Any questions so far? All right, embrace feedback. This is a tough one. Feedback is terrible, right? Like feedback can really be super painful, but feedback is really important for businesses. I actually didn't believe this slide when I first started working at Yelp. This is our review distribution. And it turns out there are more 5-star reviews on Yelp than there are 1, 2, and 3-star reviews combined. I think I just heard a wow, and I wanted my career up sometime. But that's crazy, right? Everyone just thinks that these are like internet dwelling or basement dwelling like internet trolls, like, Mom, give me more mac and cheese, like, right? No, like these are people who are online to celebrate local businesses and to celebrate their experiences and to lead consumers to the good actors. Because we all know, not everybody's a good actor, right? Not every business is perfect or necessarily even good. Sometimes they're trying to rip you off. But sites like Yelp are the great equalizer there. And it turns out that if a review mentions good customer service, it is 15 times more likely to be 5-star than 1-star. So the secret to greatness on Yelp is not, having the shiniest page or having the most impressive photos. It's a commitment to your customers and a commitment to customer satisfaction. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have people who like your business, you're not going to have a great reputation. Because Yelp is just the real world online, right? It's just word of mouth, which has existed forever, but now it's digitized, and you're actually privy to the conversation. So, what about those negative reviews? Does anyone know Jay Baer? Not know him, but has anyone read a Jay Baer book? Okay, write this down. I recommend reading Hug Your Haters, one of my favorite books. And one of the things that Jay talks about is negative reviews and how important these are to a business. And this is a canary. I'm not going to kill it. But the reason that I have a canary on the screen is because negative reviews are your canary in the coal mine. All right, does anybody know about canaries in the coal mine? Coal miners used to bring it down into the mines to see if there was any toxic gas, because canaries are tiny and small, and gases would kill them first, so they needed to get out of there. I said I wasn't going to kill it, and he said I was going to survive. So when you think about your online reviews, and you think about those 1-star reviews or those 2-star reviews, or anything less than 5 stars, is really how I think about it, those are actually so important, right? Because it's not those people who hurt a business, it's the people who walk away saying, I would not go back there, but never share why. Right? You have no chance to save that relationship because they're not telling you that they're not coming back. Right? The 1-star reviewers, they love you enough to tell you why they hate you. Right? They're actually giving you the feedback and the opportunity to make a meaningful change in your business so that the next person walking through the door doesn't have that exact same experience and doesn't walk away and say, I'm not going back, but doesn't tell you why. Right? So when you think about these 1-star reviews, it's really easy to get upset about them or to focus on them. Trust me, my mom is a small business owner, and I've definitely heard plenty of things about 1-star reviews and 1-star reviewers. I think she can tell me age, sex, location, marital status, dog or cat person, how many marriages, about all of her negative reviews, which there are not very many. But the point is those 1-star reviewers are insight into how consumers perceive your business. So this leads us to the next topic, which is letting reviews happen organically and why this is so important. Because in this industry especially, I find that it's quite normal for people to ask for and solicit reviews. And who here uses Uber? Right, or Lyft, either one. I'm not gonna polarize the room again. Well, I take a lot of Ubers, and I'm sure as you've all guessed, I am that weird person who loves a conversation with my Uber driver. No one's surprised. So when it comes to a conversation, with an Uber driver, they can range in all sorts of topics, but I travel for work all the time, so it inadvertently happens. And every once in a while, I'll have this great 20-minute conversation, and I'll get out of the car, and they'll just be like, 5 for 5, right? And I'm like, wait a second. Did we just have this great 20-minute conversation so you can get a 5-star review? Or did we have this great 20-minute conversation because we were just two people right? And that seed of doubt for a business who has spent all this money getting that customer through their door and earning that business the first time, that is so toxic, right? You can ask for all the reviews in the world that you want, but you cannot make a 5-star page like a 1-star business. So when it comes to planting that seed of doubt, why undo all of the hard work that you've done up until that point, all the money that you've spent, by at the very end undermining your own integrity in that situation? So what do you do instead? Flip that on its head. Rather than talking about it at the end, you need to substantiate that review sites are important to you every step of the way. So when somebody comes in, oh, is this your first time staying with us, or is this your first time with us? How did you hear about us? Oh, you found us online. Oh, did you check out our Yelp page? Oh, did you check out our TripAdvisor? Whatever it might be. Oh, those are so important to us. Our staff always loves reading those great reviews. And then prove that statement every step of the way. It's on your website. It's in your email signature. It's in your confirmations. Every step of the way, they're seeing that you really do care about it because you're constantly calling attention to it. And when you do that at the end, rather than have to kind of come off as a little bit slimy, you're then, that person who did such a great job because you actually spent your time focusing on customer service, not on trying to get a review, that they're like, how could I possibly pay it forward? How can I possibly share with this business or share how great of an experience this was? Like, well, they said that their TripAdvisor, that their Yelp, or whatever it might be, was really important to them. And that would be a great thing for me to go on and share my experience with other people. The other problem with asking for reviews is that not a lot of people write reviews, right? Anyone know what this is? I'm trying to see my birthday. Close. It's like literally 9 months to the day off, but forward September. The 1-9-90 principle is an online phenomenon, and it was first observed on Wikipedia. And it says that when you take 100 users of a site that a consumer can post information to, 90 of them are going to go on there and simply consume information. So in the context of Wikipedia, 90 people are just going there to read a Wikipedia page. 9 of them are going to edit that page. So maybe they're reading the elements of style and they want to add that collegiate comma. Like maybe they want to, take out a prepositional phrase. Whatever it might be, they're going to make small edits to it. Only one person is going to take the time to create new and create a new page or create new content. And the wonderful thing about this principle is it has been observed on every single site where consumers can create information to date. So for 100 users, 90 of them are just going to go there to consume information. 9 of them will engage with that information. And only 1 of them will actually create new content on that site. So in the context of Yelp, only 1 out of 100 people is going to take the time to write you a review. So that means, going back to our canary in the coal mine, if 1 person has said it, that means 99 people have thought the exact same thing, but never took the time to write it down. Don't let that sink in. Right? If 1 person has said it, that means 99 people have taken the time, or if 1 person has said it, that means 99 people thought it, but never took the time to write it down. And if you look at our traffic, the numbers pencil out. We have over 100 million people coming to Yelp just on mobile every single month. We were founded in 2004 and we only have 154 million reviews, or 155 million reviews since our inception. So if you think that every single person who uses Yelp is writing a review, you would be wrong. So when you're thinking about your online presence and what people are saying, the feedback that they're giving, if it's about an employee, if it's about an experience, whatever it might be, If one person has said it, that means 99 people thought the exact same thing, but did not share it with you. So, getting reviews to happen organically, build awareness of the importance of these platforms, and then share the love, right? Not just externally, because you can share your reviews to your other social channel, you can print out reviews, you can highlight reviews and embed them on your website, you have lots of options there. But also internally, you need to actually change and shift your internal culture around the reviews that you're getting and around the way that consumers are perceiving you. Because from a strategy perspective, you can make these big, sweeping, wild changes in your business with very little insight, or, like most great businesses, you can make small, measured, incremental changes empowered by insights and grow your business into something that's really incredible because you're staying one course, and that course is having happy customers, having happy clients. Which brings us to the last one, which I think is one of the biggest missed opportunities that I find on Yelp altogether, and that's responding to reviews. Who here responds to all of their reviews? Okay, great, I love this. Gold stars, gold star, gold star, gold star. Who here is responding only to their negative reviews? Oh, okay, cool. I had all these silver stars to give out. Who here is not responding to any of their reviews? Oh, okay. Well, 3 people raised their hand that are responding to all of them. Am I just going to assume the worst, or is this like the 1990 principle? Am I experiencing anything right now?
Well, other people from other properties, like general managers, respond to their reviews.
Okay.
You know, so some of us, like myself, don't directly respond, but we can encourage more practices.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm going to recommend that you encourage that, whether it be a centralized model or a decentralized model where your GMs are handling it, that you're responding to your reviews. And I actually personally prefer a decentralized model because it creates a little bit more ownership, but you might find a degradation of like integrity in the way that the messages are handled. So you need to draw up kind of internal policies and procedures about handling reviews. The reason that you want to respond to all of your reviews is because 6 out of 10 people who write a review online actually expect a response from a business. Right? And the crazy thing is, especially with negative reviews, is that 73% of the time that somebody writes a review online, or a negative review online, they've actually already tried a traditional customer service channel to get their issue resolved. So you've disappointed them in the initial interaction, you've disappointed them in the first attempt to get it resolved, and now this is like their last possible effort. And you're just going to ignore it. That's wild, right? Because advertising a joke, and I don't necessarily endorse this, is the tax for being unremarkable, right? That's what they say. Customer service is the backbone of any great brand or any incredible small business or local business experience. So when you're thinking about responding, you're not only talking to that one person, but when you craft a response, you can craft a public response or a direct message. But a public response, you actually get credit for that too, right? Because a public response lives live on your page, and people can actually see it after the fact. So not only are you demonstrating to the person who wrote the review that you care, but you're also demonstrating to future patrons that you care, in that even on your worst day, you have their back. When people use Yelp, who's ever looked at like a business and instantly gone to the 1-star reviews? Okay, like it's indulgent, you should do it. Like, it is, whew, my God, some of that stuff is juicy, right? Highly recommend. But why do we do that? Why do consumers seek out that information? Well, if I'm tabbing open 5-star businesses, I'm assuming that that's going to be a great experience, right? These are good 5-star businesses. Like, I should be totally in the clear. But I'm looking at that 1-star because I'm a savvy consumer and I want that insurance policy, right? I want to know that even on their worst day, they still have my back. And how can a business demonstrate that? Well, by responding to the review and owning the experience and taking ownership of their customer service. And when I talk about like me as this kind of outlier of savvy consumer experiences, Yelp is one of the most educated user bases online, right? We're more educated than the New York Times user base. And what you'll find is that almost 50% of Yelp users are making over $100,000 a year. So when it comes to a demographic who's really important and really impactful and has high spending potential, this is it, right? This is that base. So you want to make sure that you're giving them that insurance policy by having an internal guideline on how you handle review response. And we all know not every customer is right? You might have a policy or procedure that directly conflicts with a story that they're saying or something like that. And your review response is a great way to share that. If there's misinformation on there, if there's something that's not accurate about your business that somebody's claiming, if it might not be your business that they're talking about, a public response, a well-written, thoughtful, measured, not over the top, not aggressive public response is a great way to counter that. Because as a consumer, if I'm looking at those one-star reviews, I know that you're going to own any experience that I have at your business, and I shouldn't be worried. And I think one of the most important things when you think about why customer satisfaction and customer service is so important is because it is an extremely strong driver of your revenue. A 5% increase in loyalty can lead into up to an 85% increase in revenue. We categorically spend like $500 billion a year on advertising, and only about $9 billion on customer retention, right? It is completely lopsided. You spend all this money bringing people into your business. Why would you not invest in keeping them there? So how do you respond to a review? I think one of the biggest marketing buzzwords is authenticity. And I hate to do it, but I'm going to use it, right? You respond to them as if they were standing right in front of you. Because from a consumer's perspective, there is almost no difference between an online form and a face-to-face experience. In fact, with our marriage short screens, some people actually prefer it, right? So if you're going to respond to a review, the reason I prefer a decentralized model is because it demonstrates greater ownership, and you actually have the ability to say, I'm from this business, this is me, here's my photo, it's uploaded, but I'm responding to your review, I care, how can we make this right? And you need to respond to them like they're standing right in front of you. So with that, get on review sites, they're important. Manage your listings, embrace feedback, let reviews happen organically, and respond to your reviews. Thank you.